This is not going to be a comprehensive discussion of the subject of online programs. There's a million ways to skin a cat. The only one that I'm going to be talking about is, in the time allowed, I'm going to describe the way that we recently set up a particular ICT online program in San Diego. Okay, here's the problem to start with. We had a web server maintenance course for many years, and it's very popular and it's a very successful course. It's a 25 classroom hours a week for 36 weeks. So it's a very intense course. The problem that we thought we were having with the course is that the 25 classroom hours were a real burden for the students and also for the teacher. It's a lot of time. So we thought that we could, you can see there's a lot of material in the course, and we thought that by taking part of it and putting it online and making it a hybrid course, we could lighten the burden on the students without diluting the course too much. So we looked at the contents of the course, and we saw various areas in which we could design an online course and run it in parallel with the others. So we decided that what we were going to do is, instead of 25 classroom hours a week, we're going to have 15 classroom hours a week, and 10 hours is going to be an online course. So it's a hybrid course. And we saw various areas that really loan themselves to being online, like SQL could break out nicely. Perl scripting is going to work out nicely. The first one that we picked, though, was the TCP/IP networking. So we were able to break that out and create a 90-hour course, 9 weeks, 10 hours a week, devoted to this. And that was our first effort, and then later on we developed the others. So let me describe what we did with the first one, though. We took, basically this is kind of a boiled down, abbreviated Cisco course. Having 9 weeks to cover the field of TCP/IP, and also we threw in encryption as part of the course. See, here's our 9-week program, and it worked out nicely into 9 10-hour modules. In each week, we had 8 lessons, 8 one-hour lessons. The 9th hour was a student assessment, where the students took an online assessment test, and we in an hour they took the test, and also we reviewed the results of the test. And I should say that the students' grade for this segment would be the average of the 9 tests that the student took. And then the 10th hour is an online office hour. Okay, so I'll describe each of those elements, the learning modules and the assessments and the office hours. Let me kind of very briefly summarize the process that we're going to go through, and then I'll come back and talk about it in greater detail. To start with, we wanted to create the presentation, and we found, looking at what other people had done, people either used YouTube for the most part, or they used PowerPoint to come up with the basic learning modules, the basic presentations. We picked PowerPoint as our tool, mainly because I'm more used to, I've used PowerPoint a lot, and I don't know much about YouTube. So we basically then, our week of our week will consist of 8 PowerPoint presentations, one for each day, one for each lesson. Okay, we did, however, found a lot of good material in YouTube, on the internet, good YouTube presentations on the material that we wanted to cover. So we did incorporate many YouTube presentations into our basic PowerPoint. Having created the PowerPoint presentation, we added a narration to it, a voiceover narration, and for that we used Camtasia Relay, a program which is available for free and which really worked very well for adding the narrations to the PowerPoint presentations. And we'll go into that in a little bit of detail later on. We also added captions because they required and they're necessary for students who are hearing impaired and so forth. And we use Camtasia Relay also for adding the captions. So Camtasia Relay was our basic tool for narrations and for captions. Then, of course, we needed to give the students access to what we had created, to the presentations, and we used Blackboard for that. Our students are very familiar with Blackboard. They've used it a lot. And Blackboard really plays well with the PowerPoint and Camtasia Relay stuff. So using Blackboard, then, that gave the student access to the materials that we created. It also provided for student input, especially for our office hours and for discussions among the students. We used 2 programs for student input. One was Blackboard, and the other is CCCConfer. Okay, so that's an overview of the process. Before I talk about how we created the material, let me kind of go describe the product. As I said, the student uses Blackboard to access the course. And we have a Blackboard set up at SDCCD, the San Diego district. When the student accesses the student's Blackboard page, it comes up with a page that looks like this, the home page for the course. And let me concentrate on some of the important aspects of it. As you can see on the left side here, there's a menu. We have an icon that allows the student to pull up the learning modules, the PowerPoint presentations that we created. The student also has access to an assessments icon when they're ready to take the test. And the third really important icon is the discussions icon, where the students can talk to each other in a forum, and also we use that for our weekly office hour. So those are the 3 areas that I'm going to describe in detail. Okay, when the student clicks on learning modules, they pull up a menu that looks like this, and when they're ready to take a particular lesson, they click on it, and that brings up the PowerPoint presentation that covers that module. When the student clicks on assessments, it pulls up a menu that looks like this, and you can see that each test is brought up on one icon. When they're ready to take the test for week number 4, they click on that, and that'll bring up the test. My icon that I want to talk about is discussions. When the student clicks on the discussions icon, it brings up a discussion forum where the students can talk to each other or talk to the teacher, and also, as I mentioned, that's our primary tool for doing the weekly office hour, when all the students get together online to talk about the program. Okay, as far as creating the material, as I said, what we're using primarily in our course is PowerPoint presentations. We're also adding content from YouTube. If we found a lot of material on YouTube, YouTube has a pretty good search engine, so we're able to search around and find material. If we found something we wanted to use, we would bring it up, look at it, make sure that's what we want, and then, of course, when the YouTube presentation is on the screen, it has a URL at the top. So we're able to copy that URL and paste it into our PowerPoint slide. So when the student reaches this point in the course where we want them to access that presentation here, this routing overview presentation, they can just click on this link, and that brings up the YouTube discussion. Okay, now that we've we've created a PowerPoint presentation consisting of a number of slides, some of which have material that we put into the slide, some of which are YouTube's or other internet links, and now we have to create a narration for the slide. And as I said, we use Camtasia Relay, which turned out really good for doing the narrations. And this slide shows the basic steps for using the Camtasia Relay program. First of all, you go to Camtasia Relay and you download the recorder, their recording program, into your local machine. Then you open the recorder, you do a test recording to make sure that the audio level is correct and all that. And you choose a profile. Where do you want to store it? What do you want to call it? And then you go ahead and record the narration. At which point, when you finish the narration, you get a message back, an email from Camtasia Relay that says your presentation is held for editing. Then you can log on to the Camtasia Relay. Now at this point, they've done the captioning from what you've from your voice recording. It requires a certain amount of editing, so you log on to Camtasia Relay, you pull it up, and you make any changes to the captions that you want, and then you click on Save and Publish, and then you get another email saying that your presentation is published. Now, they will then, in that email, they'll give you a URL telling you where that presentation is stored. You can add that URL as a link to your Blackboard presentation. So the student then, when they go into Blackboard and they want to go to module number 1 or number 4, they just click on that URL and that brings that up. That's an overview of how Camtasia Relay works. I'll go into a little bit more detail about it though. Okay, adding narration. Camtasia Relay works really good with PowerPoint. If you download your Camtasia Relay add-in to your machine, and you have a PowerPoint presentation, if you bring up that PowerPoint presentation and you click on slideshow, which is what you usually use, in your classroom. Camtasia Relay will give you a choice. It'll say, do you want to record a narration? If you click on yes, then you can start recording the narration, and you verify the audio selection and the level, and then you go ahead and click on record, and you go ahead and give your presentation as normal. When you're finished, you click stop, and the presentation then is going to show up in your Camtasia Relay dialog. So it's really simple. It doesn't, if you're using PowerPoint, it's very simple because you don't have to do much of anything. It plays well with PowerPoint. Now, having done that, having added the narration, you got to add captions, and the reason you got to add captions is that there's a state law that says you've got to have it. It's not a choice. So Camtasia Relay will go ahead and add the captions to your PowerPoint presentation based on their understanding of what you just said. It's a kind of an approximate process. The program tries to learn your style and your voice and your vocabulary. So in the beginning it gets a little bit rocky, but as you go on with it, it gets better and better and better. And after a while it gets to where it's just amazing how good they are at understanding your voice presentation. Okay, so so when the student clicks on that learning module that you've created, here's an example. Here's the page. The student clicks on lesson number 1-6 for the 6th lesson of the first week. They come up with something like this, and you can see, if you look at the top there, you can see the URL shows where that lesson is stored. Camtasia gives you two choices for storing your presentation. One is you can store it as a YouTube, in which case it will give you the URL of where your presentation has been stored on the YouTube server. The other is you can use your own local server, and in our district that's a requirement. And so in this case, for instance, it shows that this particular learning module is stored on our SDCCD server. And as I said before, when the student is ready to access the learning module, the PowerPoint presentation, they'll click on the learning module icon and come up with a page that looks like this, and then they'll select the lesson that they want to review by clicking on the appropriate icon. Now, get back a minute here. Yeah. Okay. So now let me talk about how we develop that. When we're ready to create a PowerPoint presentation that's going to be a particular lesson, we'll do the same thing. As on the instructor's page, we'll click on learning modules, come up with this page, which shows the modules which have already been created, and also there's an icon up there in the upper left-hand corner that says Build Content. So when we're ready to create a new learning module, we'll click on Build Content, and come up with a page that looks like this. And it tells us that we're going to create a web link. Now, remember, we've created the PowerPoint, and it's been stored either in a YouTube server with a particular URL, or it's been stored on our district server with a particular URL. Now we want to get it into Blackboard so the student can see it. Okay, so we're on the Create Web Link page. We're going to give it a name, Lesson 2-3, and then we'll copy and paste the URL of the appropriate PowerPoint presentation into this page, and then we'll submit, and that will incorporate that learning module with that title into Blackboard so the students can access it. Okay, so that gives us the ability then to provide the learning modules to the students. So now let me talk about the assessments. Again, now here, what we're going to do now is we're going to create a test. We're giving one test a week to the students. Here we're going to create the test. On the menu on the left side of the home page, there's a segment of the menu called Control Panel, and in that segment we have an icon that's called Tests, Surveys, and Pools. So when we're ready to create an assessment, we'll click on that and come up with a page that looks like this. Test information. And all we're going to do now is we're going to give that test a name. So we're going to type in the appropriate name, Lesson 1-6, and we're going to submit. And that brings up what they call the test canvas. On the test canvas, we can create a question, and then we can create, of course, a number of questions by repeating the process. We click on the Create Question icon on the test canvas page, and that brings up the page for one particular question. We can give it a title if we want. You don't have to. And then we can type in the text of the question and indicate, if it's a multiple choice question, we'll indicate what is the correct answer so that Blackboard can go ahead and do the grading. And for each question, we're going to bring up a page like this and submit and type in the appropriate question. And here's an example of what we might do. See here, question, who was the first president? We'll type in the possible answers, and we'll indicate which is the correct answer, so that Blackboard can go ahead and grade the exam. We don't have to get involved in that, and will just give us a grade. Okay, for student input, as I said, we try to involve the student actively as much as possible, both in student forums where the students discuss the subject matter of the course between themselves, and also once a week we have an office hour where everybody gets on the line and talks. We've used two programs for the office hour. One is Blackboard itself, which of course requires the student to have computer access. And the other is CCCConfer, where a student who doesn't have access to the computer could get into the conversation using a telephone. These are both free programs, and they're both available from the community college system. We found so far that our students prefer the Blackboard because they're using Blackboard all the time, and they all have access to the discussion page. And also it leaves a permanent record so that if a student just happened to miss an office hour, they can go back later on and they can review what was covered during that office hour. So we've probably going to start using Blackboard as at least our primary tool for the discussions. Okay, and that's it.